Why Media Group? The fastest growing media group in North America.
Hello and welcome to Y Media Newsroom. I'm Ramona Singh, and Canada is in a technical recession after 2 quarters of not having a growth in its economy and 5 consecutive quarters of not that much business investment in terms of showing that Canada is in a situation that is in a recession, regardless of all the headlines that we see from the investments, which is long-term strategy on AI, long-term strategy on pipelines, long-term strategy on, AI grids and nuclear and everything else. So what has caused Canada to be in a technical recession, given that it's the only country out of the G7, and therefore you can say, oh, it's global instability, it's tariffs, it's the conflict, the wars. But other G7s are also going through that. So what could it be that Canada is in a technical recession? So new analysis argues that Canada's exceptionally high immigration levels during the years of 2023 and 2024 have helped mask deeper economic weaknesses, right? So while the population growth boosted overall GDP, it also concealed problems such as weak productivity, slowing business investment, and stagnant per capita growth, housing shortages, and declining living standards. We know declining living standards is the affordability crisis that Canadians have been talking about, and each election cycle, it's all about affordability, if nothing else. Now, the immigration levels have been reduced significantly, and those underlying economic challenges are now becoming more visible when it comes to Canada's economic data that we're taking a look at from Stats Canada, right? We got a shrinking economy. It's contracted in the last 2 quarters, Q4 of 2025, Q1 of 2026. And when you have business investments leaving Canada, and the mark has been for like almost 2 decades, very significant. So economists quoted in a very detailed report that the rapid immigration helped keep headline GDP growth during a period of high inflation, economic uncertainty. But when it comes to population and when it comes to growth, when it slows down and Canada can no longer rely on adding more people to drive economic expansion, it will lead and it will need to improve productivity and investments instead of using, this massive productivity from immigration numbers. So now the Prime Minister has also pointed out to lower immigration as one of the reasons Canada's economy has posted 2 consecutive quarters of declining GDP. So when Mark Carney was asked, you've been at the job for a little over a year, why is Canada in a recession and you are a banker? And why is it the only country in the G7? He says, well, it's because of immigration. We have lower immigration because immigration was an issue when it came to infrastructure, our ability for healthcare services, the congestion on the infrastructure of bumper to bumper traffic, when it came to jobs, when it came to so many different things, when it came to housing, when it came to pricing on housing, when it came to housing affordability, housing, availability, all of that. So RBC economist Nathan Jansen said high immigration in 2023 and 2024 absolutely helped Canada support its GDP during a difficult economic period. If you know, that was the time where we're coming out of the pandemic era. And Stats Canada recorded flat population growth in 2025 for the first time on record, with early estimates suggesting population decline as early as 2026 in Canada. All right, so we know during Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's time, we had a massive influx of people. Population growth happened in that 10-year gap. I think, we got, shy of 10 million people. Like, it was a very significant growth of, actually 5 million people we got. So that has come down, and now we're seeing a population decline. So economists caution that lower population growth will make GDP growth appear weaker, even if underlying economic conditions remain stable. So the debate is shifting from population growth towards productivity growth, business investment, innovation, and weaker output. And it's interesting because I heard Premier Ford talk about how we need to be able to bring in people into the country to be able to start businesses, to be able to spend, and it's about bringing in certain types of people that can contribute to the economy. So he talked about that as well. So now, what are the stats? Canada has reduced its a permanent resident target to 380,000 annually through to 2028, down from the previously planned 500,000 immigrants in 2026. Temporary residence targets are 230,000 workers and 155,000 international students for 2026. A recent federal survey found 47% of Canadians believe Canada is admitting too many immigrants, and that has come down from 54% in 2024. So the government responded and said, okay, we're going to bring in less immigrants and less international students. What happened? You have the universities and the colleges saying, without the international students, we're actually having a very hard time running our organizational institutions. You have that as well, right? So this is significant because you have the CD Howe Institute project, when it projects real GDP growth, could average only 0.4 to 0.5% in a near term, about 1.2% long term under lower immigration scenarios. So the same report projects employment could decline by approximately 54,000 jobs in 2026, 17,000 jobs in 2027, and that's primarily due to demographic changes rather than recessionary conditions. They're trying to explain to us why is Canada in a recession and the only country in the G7 when the world is going through the same thing when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to instability on energy prices, and all the conflicts that are going on. So this highlights a very uncomfortable reality for policymakers of all political stripes, right? You have Canada that's become heavily dependent on population growth to drive economic growth. It became very highly dependent on the real estate market, right? And as changes were made that foreign investors couldn't come in to purchase real estate and the taxes that are on vacant properties, it changed the game for Canada. So now adding hundreds of thousands of new homeowners boosted housing demands, but when it comes to consumer spending and when it comes to the GDP numbers, it's showing a country that is in a deeper productivity problem, is what's happening right now. So now the real test for Canada is not whether immigration is high or low. It seems like the real test is whether the economy can generate higher wages, stronger business investment, or more innovation and greater output when it comes to per worker. If Canada can improve productivity, it simply increases immigration again. That may raise the GDP, but not necessarily because it's improving living standards. And we knew that that had an impact on living standards and the infrastructure and access to services and everything else in between and the cost of living. So the debate has now moved beyond, more immigration versus less immigration. Now it's focused more on the important question, which is how Canada can grow its economy through productivity, investment, infrastructure, housing supply, affordable housing also, and skills development, of course, backed with a stable economy, knowing that the Kuzma review is in just a few weeks away. And if it doesn't get negotiated and to have Kuzma renewed for another 16 years, then we're going to be in a big trouble when it comes to business investment, when it comes to predictability, when it comes to jobs, because 70% of Canadian exports, the productivity of Canadians at the work that they do, 70% of those exports go to the United States. And that is a big, big customer that Canada cannot afford to lose. So as this week, we're seeing that our US Canada Trade Minister is in Washington, D.C., has formally said that Canada wants to continue Kuzma to Mexico and to United States. It's to be seen how things are going to progress as the United States is pushing back when it comes on auto sector, when it comes on a few other things that we covered, but we're going to cover even more because we're in a very critical time when it comes to Canadian productivity, when it comes to the Canadian economy, and when it comes to business investment. That's all the time we have today. Until tomorrow, take care and be well.